Every single week is like a new level up. My mind is elevated every single week. New goals, pushing forward, getting better each week. Just a little bit better psychologically. Most of the business stuff, trading, even life stuff, the growth happens in the mind. I'm telling you, the growth happens in the mind. One thing I noticed even in the gym, and even if you're working out physically, yes, you might make gains and growth physically, but the mental gains are infinite. The mental progression is infinite. So yeah, I'm gonna go in with another week. It's Sunday. Can't wait to push further and get better. Basically, it's the beauty of life to get better. What else is there to do? You know what I'm saying? Get better. That's the only thing. God bless.
Back with another weekly recap. Let's go. It is the 28th. We just had the week commencing 23rd of September end. Very quiet week. Even though there was a ton of data, it didn't really do too much. There wasn't like that clean moves. I only took two trades. And yeah, we're going to go through them right now. So on Wednesday, the first trade that I took, because I didn't trade Monday or Tuesday due to the fact that when it came to my time to trade, price was at all-time highs. As you can see on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern, price is at all-time highs. So I decided not to take a trade there because I would have thought about buys as we're bullish right now. But if we're sitting at all-time highs around that time, I don't want to buy this. So wasn't interested. Decided to take the day off. I don't even think there was anything economically. Let's check real quick. S&P PMI doesn't really hold too much weight, and we had a bunch of speeches that day as well. And then Tuesday we only had consumer confidence. Really, we had some homes data, inflation homes data, like prices data, that was showing a slight decline, basically, which further fuels the rate cut bets. And consumer confidence isn't really that important um, itself. So yeah, it was extremely bullish in the first half of the week. Again, around there was some clean buys around New York Open on Tuesday, but by the time we got to 10 a.m. Eastern, price was all the way up here, and I didn't feel like taking a trade. So you could have took some buys earlier that day if you wanted to, because it was a perfect rejection of this like minor demand zone. Price couldn't close below 26.25. Rejected perfectly coming into New York session with the volume straight back to print new all-time highs. And then we went on after that crazy, and eventually peaked out at like 26.70 basically. And by then we were going into Wednesday, a new daily candle, and price pulled back slightly, creating like a minor range, and then leading into New York session on Wednesday. We already like established like an intraday range between 26.70 and 26.50. So I decided when price was like peaking out here, failing to break into new all-time highs, I saw a major rejection on the lower time frames, 10 a.m. Eastern, and started to see buyer exhaustion as we pushed up quite a bit leading up to 10 a.m. Eastern. So I decided to take some counter trend trade sells, which was risky at the time, but the setup did make sense. So I thought it's worth the risk. I'll have a nice little 30 pip stop loss. I don't even have to have a 50 pip stop loss in this case. Just go down to the 1 minutes. We made a nice double top in this area. I don't have my key levels on this chart, but I did have a key level around 26 26.65, and that's where I got my entry with my stop loss above the previous highs. So yeah, and aimed down towards the 26.50 AOI basically. But I didn't need to actually target that far because all I really needed was 90 pips to get the 1 to 3. So yeah, price dumped after 10 a.m. Eastern back below 26.65. And this major, well, not major, but this minor exhaustion here, we're seeing prices slowly losing momentum and eventually got to the point where it just broke above the previous high, but then immediately dumped back below 26.65 key level. And on the intraday timeframes, we obviously failed to break a new high as well above here. So that was a confirmation for me. And on the 30-minute, you've seen these exhausted candles here. This doji candle, this candle with a weak bullish body and a huge bottom wick. These are exhaustion candles, and then, lo and behold, right after 10 a.m. Eastern, we had a huge bearish engulfing candle that engulfed like the last 4 30-minute candles or 5 30-minute candles. So yeah, that was some counter trends sells that worked out. Not the highest probability trade, but it was the first trade of the week, and I was willing to take a risk on a counter trend trade that gave me a pretty good entry. So I thought, why not? Obviously, I wasn't looking to extend this trade because it's a counter trend trade and we're inside a range and we're still majorly bullish on the intraday. So I knew in my mind when I was taking this trade that I wasn't trying to hold it beyond really the TP on the on the day. So yeah, I just took it from 26.65 down to 26.55 pretty much. And it only took like less than an hour really. And then we skip Thursday because again the same sort of situation. We made new all-time highs at and NY Open, dumped back in the range, and then by 10 a.m. Eastern we were rejecting this low here. I didn't like this because it wasn't really like I wanted price to come down to here realistically and tap into this AOI, and then I would look to take buys back up towards the all-time highs. But I think it was some economic data that stopped me from taking these buys. Yeah, because this was like mixed. We had like a decline in GDP prices, which again fuels the lower inflation rate report that we're going to talk about PCE. Then we also had optimistic jobs data because we had lower jobless claims, which kind of negates the rate cut bets. And durable goods was just, well, it was like it wasn't even on target. It was like in between the target and previous. So it was a considerable decline, but we were expecting a considerable decline. We were expecting way more of a decline, so that wasn't really shocking. And GDP was positive, so again, positive growth data. Kind of mixed data, realistically. So I didn't decide to take a trade there. Plus, pricing wasn't really nice for me. But you could have potentially took some buys after 10 a.m. Eastern back towards the all-time highs, but unfortunately we didn't actually make a new all-time high. We only pushed above 26.70s again. But yeah, you could have got some nice pips there. I didn't like the fact that it pushed lower and then immediately just took off. I want like to see some sort of seller exhaustion around here and then take some buys. But yeah, I decided to sit out that day. Then we move on to Friday. The main focus basically was the PCE data this week because it's a inflation report and inflation is important, as well as like jobs data. But we didn't really have any huge jobs reports this week. It was only like initial jobless claims, which is the same every week. But anyway, let's get on to post post PC, low PC. So if we look here, we had PC come at 2.2, which is lower than forecast and lower than previous, so it's a low report, as well as the monthly came in low as well. The core PC was also low as well, but that isn't as important as the actual one. And personal spending roughly lower than expected, not really in focus too much. Consumer sentiment as well came in out higher, so I guess that's optimistic. But the main focus was PC. So I'm watching price dump into this AOI at 2650s, basically the bottom of the range, and start to show exhaustion right after London session close. I'm not looking to take a trade at 10 a.m. Eastern because we're falling clearly, and we're clearly like failing to make a new high here. So I wasn't really interested in taking anything too early. Plus, I wanted to see it touch a heavy intraday AOI and not like some minor AOI like this. I wanted it to actually hit a bit heavy AOI. Now, this was a little bit risky because we did actually close below this rejection for like the first time in a while on the 1 hour. So I guess that could be considered a shift in structure. And that's why we saw a little bit of whipsaws in this area, even after I got take profit. But yeah, price tapped into the zone, immediately started to show exhaustion, failing to break lows here. Tried, rejected, formed the double bottom on the 1 minute, and this is where I got in. And then once again, retested. Wait a second, it keeps covering that. Retested the zone again and failing to break new lows, which was just further confirmation because we've now created a minor support level in this higher time frame area support level. And price went on to break highs at 26.51 and continued on to 26.55 key level, which is where I took profit, or 26.55, 26.56, around that area for like 80, 90 pips. Risked only 30 pips. I could have risked even less than that, but I decided to give a little bit breathing room. And yeah, after that, price pretty much the momentum just died after that. And then eventually we retested the lows and ranged and then took off again towards the end of the week and broke above these highs again. But yeah, this was also a little bit of a risky trade because of the data not really being that surprising, quite being mid, and the fact that we had this huge dump that actually kind of shifted the intraday structure. So when I was looking at this, I was a little bit hesitant. But because we got this next candle, a doji, this next hourly candle, that's what made me feel optimistic that I could potentially take some buys here on the lower time frames. And that's exactly what we did. Took some buys from 26.47s up to 26.56. And yeah, that was my week. Just 2 trades. Very simple. Yeah, closely monitoring economic data and not making any stupid or rational decisions based on what I see on the screen. Very simple stuff. Just wanted a quick recap, and yeah,